We are traveling back to Canada, so buckle up to interview a true legend, in my opinion. He's a hard worker and someone I had a chance to get to know better on my newer series on YouTube, Writing with Authors. From TED Talks to multiple companies, we're diving into it all today. And Krishna hailed from a small village in India, and after being born into poverty, the lack of necessities made him work harder, and he became hungry to achieve something better for himself, his future family, and the generations to come. As a 10-year-old, he thought money would solve all of his problems. In fact, this thought vanished as he got older and understood there was something greater. A higher purpose now drives him to reach his goals, and his self-discoveries lead him to an inner passion with helping others through mentoring, giving, compassion, and love. His entrepreneurial endeavors are endless, but they do include startups, Snap QR, an NFC, and a VR-based technology for automotive dealerships. He also founded Buddy Golf, which is a golf booking app with real-time foursomes and guaranteed low-cost bookings. During COVID-19, we all had to pivot, and something he did was produce an Live to Inspire talk show podcast where he featured experts, leaders, and mentors, and you can catch this on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and YouTube. His efforts in the entrepreneurial sector did earn him this prestigious Entrepreneur of the Year award from the local Chamber of Commerce and 3 Keystone Awards, including a gold from Canadian Home Builders Association, which he is very proud of, and I am proud of as well. He is also a motivational speaker. As I mentioned, he does it all. He did some TED Talks. He's a 2-time Quilly Award winner and a 3-time XP Award in Hollywood for his contributions to arts and communications. Krishna, it's great to see you, my friend.
Hey, Vincent, good to see you again, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm excited to jump into this show today. And everyone, be sure to stick around for the spotlight story at the end of the show. Since we have an expert in digital marketing, a subject we can all improve on, we're going to hop into an article I found from Startup Grind titled 5 Tips Entrepreneurs Need to Know About Digital Marketing. And I am excited to share that this summer's episodes will be brought to you in part by speaker coach Cesar Cervantes, specializing in helping you get your transformative message to the TEDx stage. Guaranteed. To schedule your free brainstorming session, visit the link in the show description or CesarCervantes.tv. We're going to find out why he became an entrepreneur. So, Krishna, you've accomplished a whole lot in your entrepreneurial career. Let's start at the beginning.
Hey, really, it all depends. For everybody, it's a different goal. Like I said, for me, I wanted to have my basic necessities met. However, I realized there is much bigger things to life. So now I focus on what is the why behind everything I do and what is the purpose. So the why is what leading me to create new entities and solving problems and creating solutions in tech space. And the purpose that drives me is the more money you can have, the more changes that you can create in this world, like whether you're helping a nonprofit or you're sitting on a board that creates a climate change policies. So most, whether we agree or not, everything in this world is measured by the top 50 list, right? Are you Elon Musk or are you Jeff Bezos, right? But in your given locality, you can be the top leader to influence some of these changes that can eventually push to the national level and cause a greater impact. And that's what I drive by now, and that's kind of motivates me being an entrepreneur, trying to identify new things all the time. Okay, let's make this happen.
I think you're doing the right thing. I learned in the beginning as well, different backgrounds, but I also thought money would solve all my problems. I thought, okay, I was a finance major. I was hyper-focused on money, went to MBA. I share this story often where I got this job. I thought it would make me happy. I was earning more money than I did. I had the title, all of these things, but I learned I was as least happy as I'd been in quite some time. So that's what took me out of that rat race, if you will, to start writing my first book. I know you've written a bunch of books. We might as well plug some of these books. We had your latest book on writing with authors, I believe, The Golden Keys to Success. Is it?
Golden Rules of Success, yes.
Okay, so I was close. Let's talk about one of your other books real quick.
Well, golden rules of success is like my entrepreneur journey, right? Like I went to my post-graduation in England. So being a student, you can only work part-time. So I want to find something that really pays me more money for a
Right.
short amount of time,
Hmm.
right? So I don't have to work 40 hours, but I can still complete that in half of the time and still be able to make some amount of the money, right? So it's just kind of like trying to be smart. But at the same time, I came across Sir Richard Branson's book, Screw It, Let's Do It, how he started the Virgin Empire. So that changed my entire perspective on entrepreneurship. Once I start forming the companies, I went back and used some of these principles, but that's where it all started, right? And in the golden rules of success, I cover like 10 steps on what I did to get where I am today. So it's kind of like a snippets of or summary of my entrepreneurial journey. So that journey never ends. Like I call it, like being an entrepreneur is an ongoing thing. It's just not like I did one thing and I'm successful. That's great. So you're always hungry and you want to do more things. And that's where we're born into creating these things. And there is another book it's called The Big Secret, co-authored with Jack Canfield and some of these other entrepreneurs in the world. And it covers more on the philosophic approach of what got me to be an entrepreneur. So I grew up in India, and it's always been there's a lack of things, right? Like, whether it's books, clothes, or food, whatever that is. It's kind of like upper middle class, but still compared to other standards, it's still considered poor.
Right.
So all I was thinking is, how do I create more of what I want? Like, I want to have a nice blazer, right? Like, even it's like people perceive you based on what you're wearing and how you're behaving, how you're talking. And, somewhere it can be racist too. Like, you look brown, are you Mexican or are you Indian, right? So it's deeper things that happen around this issue. So I was like, how can I be invincible being born in India and, facing some of these racism issues, but also become indispensable? And so I focused on gaining knowledge. And I studied and worked hard in terms of buying these books. They're not cheap, right? Like, by trade, I'm an electrical engineer in India. So how can I afford that? And then how do I use that knowledge and expertise to create something that creates money? If you read any of these entrepreneurial books, the system is built for the businesses and entrepreneurship, because at the end of the day, governments need taxes to build infrastructure and whatnot. So they do incentivize companies that are creating jobs, that are creating solutions, and they are creating revenues. And when I realized that, why don't I have my own company? But it didn't happen until I was 30 years old in Canada, because I was afraid. What if I fail?
Right.
What would my parents think? What would my friends think? Right. So it's just all the self-negative talk. But this is where the Jack Canfield piece comes in. Everybody knows him through his Soul Soup series books. They really motivate you. He talks about law of attraction and manifestations. So when I came across his work, I started realizing there are things that I can do energetically to shift my mind towards creating what I want in my life. And that is where that law of attraction came in place. And I started using that, and some of my discoveries through my childhood to where I am today, that was discussed in the Big Secret book. But it's more from the energy point of view. Like, some of the things that I came across when I was a kid, it didn't make sense, like why I'm going through, right? But now I can look back and say, okay, because of that hurdle, that obstacle happened like 25 years ago. Now I built a belief around my philosophies and core values. Now I'm not afraid of that anymore. It's all those little switches just kind of changes, right? So The Big Secret, again, other Amazon best-selling book. It covers more on the law of attraction manifestations.
I think you're very inspiring, because you're just going to keep going. You're going to keep putting out value into the world. It wasn't just the business, it's the books. And that's similar to what I'm doing, trying to help people from as many different angles as I get. Some people want to read it in a book. Some people want to see it, like right now on the podcast. They want to listen to it on the podcast. Do what we can as entrepreneurs to help others on their journey. I love it. But before we hop into your business talk again, and we talk all about that, we mentioned some things that are challenging in entrepreneurship. That itty bitty committee in our head. Will we fail? Will we not? What are some of the other challenging parts of entrepreneurship for you?
You know, it's not easy, like being an entrepreneur. Just know that, but also have those goals in place, but also create that action point that attaching to the goals, right? Like I'm going to get there. And I was a programmer, right? So it's kind of like engineering background to computer science and programming. I never ran a business by myself. I was managing a department, running all those marketing campaigns for that company, but don't know anything about HR, don't know anything about finance, don't know anything about process or systems of the work. So I spent about like 8 months to a year learning all these aspects of the business, not from the perspective of I want to be expert on these things, but understand these things so you can hire people that are experts in that field that can help you to accelerate your growth. I could have done that sooner than waiting. I can do this. I can try it, right? And a lot of business owners are very similar. Like rather than getting an expert and say, let's get this done now, versus I want to try that social media. I want to try that SEO. I have the time. So what they're forgetting is they're not building the systems and process for the growth and scalability of the company. And that was one of the mistakes that I did as I was growing ROI MediaWorks or any other companies. But now it's all about the systems and process with the right people in place.
Systems are everything for me, even from the podcast systems I have to my writing processes. Saving time is everything. Feeling comfortable is everything. And for me, systems keeps me organized, keeps me in place. I, as a solopreneur, had to learn everything as well in the beginning. I had to be okay at everything. Now, finally trying to take some pressure off myself with social media. I am not the best at it, but for me, it was showing up was half the battle. I had to show up. In the beginning, I had that committee in my head. Why do I deserve to do this? Why should I do this? What if I fail? So what if you fail? Everyone listening on, we all battle this in our head. But like anything else, once you try it once you get started, things always get just a little bit easier. And now VK has pushed through another business and another business. Let's talk about some of these companies in a little more detail.
So it's all about finding the solutions, right? Like entrepreneurship falls down to finding solutions and using that solution to make a revenue out of it. And Snap QR, it was very early. And if you have been to any of the car lots, Saturdays, Sundays, they're closed on the weekends. So if you want to get more information about a car that's on the lot, there's no way you can do that. So that's where the Snap QR came in place. So we created QR codes and you can tap the phone, but it's too early technology for the markets. We're seeing the VR in the last 4 or 5 years, but that company has started like back in 2010. So it used to only work with the Samsung because iPhones didn't have the NFT, not the NFT, the scanners. I mean, you can scan the QR code and you can click the link, go to the website. So we built an entire system, like a content management system for auto dealers to load their inventory, and that connects for lead generation for the business, and then for people that getting more information about the vehicles that's around the lot.
I love
and
that.
Most of these people don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I'm just browsing around. Why are you bothering me? And if you know any of these car salespeople, they want to get that deal. Right.
You want to know right now. I don't want to wait till Monday. What if the car is gone?
Yeah, that's all the things they just get to you. And people are being more aware of what's happening because the internet allows them to do more research and to get more details, right? And then that was good. And then buddy golf is like, I became a golfer. I enjoyed walking on the green grasses and just enjoying the company of some of these successful entrepreneurs and business owners. So I was not on the top list, right? Like, they look at their handicap, okay, 10, 12. And I'm like, my handicap is in the 20s. So I'm not going to talk about this, but I still want to play with the people that are at the similar level. So that's the necessity allowed me to create buddy golf. So how do I create fun out of golf and create a foursome within like minutes, like finding the right-minded people and also making that booking happen? And all you had to do is, I'm golfing at this course at this time, and it sends a notification to other similar people in your network that are your friends or strangers if you allow them to. And then once the foursome is ready, it just makes that booking. Right. So
where is this located? Where can you use this app?
This is in countless markets. Like, it doesn't exist anymore. So there is other company that's backed by NBC Sports came up with the same features, and we couldn't compete. So again, yes, we made it, we made some money, but again, like, can we sustain that competing at the $30 million a year? We couldn't, right? So it's all about being an entrepreneur, making that decisions too, knowing when to stop, when to pull yourself back. So again, that's another company. And then ROI Media Works is the agency that's been running all along, because I love marketing. I love getting the message out for businesses. I love talking to these businesses and say, hey, this is something you can use, right? And that's actually making a huge difference. Like, not only getting the customers, not only solving a customer's problem, but also the business is growing and the business is employing more people. So there's the whole effect of like the economies around entrepreneurship.
And I wouldn't say, or I would ask you, wouldn't you say those aren't failures because they didn't work out? You probably had a ton of lessons learned along the way in each company.
Yeah, it's all the lessons, right? Like, during that time, I was sitting with investors. So I've been trying to like, I was in Silicon Valley every 6 months trying to see what's happening in technology. So I want to take some of the ideas and inspire from it, right? So along that lines, I ran into some of these investors and VC firms and even people from like Y Combinator. The way they look at things is way different, right? What I learned from those people, maybe 1 or 2 out of 20 companies become like really successful. That's where they make that 18 times, 20 times, or 50 times the money. The rest of them do go bust. Yeah. But the experience, what you learn from this as an entrepreneur, you can use it to something else. So after one company to another, we just started another sales agency in the solar market. I wasn't afraid of trying something new. But what started was, my first company took like 5 years to really get to a stage, okay, I can do this kind of level, right? And that's where like 90% of businesses fail in all across North America. So if you pass the 5 years mark, you're doing great. So keep going. So I use those lessons not only to shorten that time for creating a company, creating the teams, creating the systems. So I'm not waiting for another 5 years to create a company.
Right.
I can do it like over 3 months, knowing I need this process, I need these systems, the tools, and I need these type of people to work on it. And I think what I learned is leaving the control over to the right people and learning that, right? Because as you start as a solopreneur, you want to get your hands on everything, know everything, but building that trust with your team and say, hey, you're in charge of this. Let's get this taken care of.
And that's all it's about, not being scared to take that risk. That is entrepreneurship. Risk. One way or the other, you're risking it. You have to figure it out, whether you're risking your time, risking if you're going to make it, but you've got to just be confident in your skill sets. You've learned a lot of things all the way, and you just touched on building the right team. That's something that I'm sure you've gotten pretty darn good at now in your third, fourth company. But one way to learn and improve is from our lessons learned. Another way to improve is through books, workshops, apps, VK. What is one tool that you use that builds success for you that you can lend forward to our community?
So for any entrepreneurs that are starting over, I highly recommend the business model canvas. That's where everybody wants to look at it. And then once you have the idea materialized, you definitely want to spend some time on market validation. That kind of gives you some ideas whether it's going to be successful or not using the existing data. And once you have that, you can get into the tech startup and do whatever you want. But if you're a brick and mortar store, you take a different route. But those 2 steps are critical for any entrepreneur starting over.
I love it. Everyone, put the planning in, put the preparation in. There's a lot of things I wish I knew back then. That's one of the reasons why I started this show, to help you on your journey, scale quicker, find happiness quicker, and your definition of success quicker. But before we hop into this Startup Grind article, 5 tips entrepreneurs need to know about digital marketing, it's time for my funnest question. Which entrepreneur would you choose to sit down with that you have not met yet, dead or alive, to pick their brain?
I haven't met Sir Richard Branson yet. Like, he's my go-to guy, right? Because we learn certain things from different entrepreneurs at different levels. Like, I admire Robin Sharma and Jack Canfield, these type of people, from building the core values and teams and motivating your teams. But from the innovation and entrepreneurship side of the things, I love Sir Richard Branson. And because he's at that age where you can say, okay, I can see 80 years of his life, how many companies he started, how many companies you acquired. You always build in that next big thing, right? Like one of the things in our agency world that happens is a lot of agencies come together, becomes like a bigger agency over time, right? Those mergers and acquisitions. So when would you know you're at that stop? At that step and say, I can take that chance and say, let's move on to the next level. So I missed an opportunity to meet him, but he would be the guy that I want to sit with him and interview. Who knows? Maybe one of these days that might come true.
You'll have to tag him when the episode comes out, but we're going to delve a bit deeper before this spotlight story. Where is the meeting going down? If you could pick that too.
Where would that be? He always have these Nectar Islands, right? Like that's where he conducts a lot of these mastermind groups, and that's where I want to be, because it's his home and you can get the best out of him when they're on their home turf and talking about their own journey.
I agree with that. I love when my guests choose that. You want them to be comfortable, because if they're comfortable, they're going to give you more value. And learning from a guy like that, I think there's how you go 5x, 10x, 20x overnight. But thank you for choosing that. And thank you for explaining where it would be. Let's hop into this week's spotlight story. Again, you can follow along in the show description. It's called 5 Tips Entrepreneurs Need to Know About Digital Marketing. I'm going to bring up all 5, touch on them briefly, and then we're going to bring on VK to give some insight into his most valuable points that we make. Here's where the article starts. Having a mobile optimization strategy, is not optional. SEO is not dead, and it is not a project. Digital marketing is more than just pay-per-click ads. Great content equals great rewards, and conversion rate optimization can create a big impact in a short time. Technology and digital marketing strategies, they are always changing. As early stage startups and entrepreneurs are looking to get the pre-product market fit right, they should not consider product development to be more important than branding or digital marketing. Everything that a customer experiences is the product. This is something that both startups and media companies don't always fully understand. Things like creating content, blogging, and building brand awareness around a product are often considered a secondary experience and a secondary part of the company, which is a completely wrong way of thinking, the article puts. In many instances, what a customer first experiences about your product is on the internet or in the media long before they get a chance to actually touch or use it firsthand. If your company does not have both of these aspects working together in alignment, then you could be causing yourself problems with building awareness with your company and product. I touched on the big 5 tips here, VK, that the article points out. What are your most important ones, do you think?
I think most of them forget about the conversion rate optimization. Everybody does the SEO. I think they're all valid points, but understanding your own business and where your customers are can really define your marketing strategy and where you want to invest your advertising budgets. And to some extent, for any business, if they have that branding and marketing awareness, and the sales service aspect of it becomes much easier because they already know about your brand. So you're not trying to sell them anything. They already know what you're offering, what are the features this product has, and how that's going to solve their problem. All they're wondering is the price and then how that can be delivered to their doorstep, right? And when it comes to that conversion rate optimization, a lot of businesses don't invest any money into it. Like, yeah, maybe they do some SEO, but when you look at what's actually the conversion rate optimization, like recently I came across a business that's into e-commerce. So we were very specific looking at their numbers and say, hey, your conversion rates for the sales are around 0.3%. The industry average, you really want to be 1.5, 1.8% if you can be. So that's like 60% increase just by tweaking the pages on the website, product pages and shopping cart, and then how you're recovering the shopping cart at the end of the day, right? Like the quick wins, using the existing traffic that you already have and optimizing towards what the customer is asking for. So knowing these parameters, right? But if it is a business that's just starting over and doesn't have that much traffic, you focus on how do you build that awareness, how do you build that traffic. And that can be SEO, that can be paid media campaigns, that can be, some of these viral influencer campaigns.
I love the advice out there. It's something I've been in the back end working on too. I am working on getting some merch together to put back on my site to go back with my books. Now that COVID is hopefully past, I had to take my books off my website because the post office was taking so long to deliver all my books, where why not just go to Amazon where you can get it primed? They're not going to let you down. And even though I make a lot less, as you know, on Amazon, you really don't make much money on your self-published books. It's not about the dollar for the book. It's about creating the good customer experience, making sure the customer wants to come back, read my second book, third book, come back and support my endeavors. VK, you delivered a great show. I really appreciate you taking the time to come back for another podcast episode with me. Where's your website? Where's your social media? All things VK.
People can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. It's VK Lakkineni, Lakkineni, or you can just Google my name, Lakkineni. One of the things I worked on is getting the knowledge panel on Google. It's kind of pretty prestigious and takes a lot of years to get there. So now I have that, so you can't miss me. If you Google my name, I'll be there.
I recently got the author and speaker designation on Google as well, which was really, really cool. I'm really excited about that. But everyone, be sure to go check out his content. Say hello to him. He's a great guy to know. As I mentioned, with the companies, the TED Talks, the books, there is a lot to learn from. And we are at That Entrepreneur Show on all social media. And until next week, we are signing off here. VK, it's great to see you, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, my friend. Thanks for having me.